Hi everybody and welcome to OBS Obsessed. My name's John Lacey and today on the show we're going to be talking all about how we can use the power of OBS Studio inside of Zoom meetings and Zoom calls and Zoom trainings, all of the Zoom stuff, and we're joined by a very special guest, the Facilitainer himself, Mr. Said Saddouk. Welcome, Said. I know it's like 1 a.m. where you are, so thank you for being nocturnal for me.
Thanks a lot for having me, of course. Usually I'm awake and I'm watching, so it makes a big difference. Now I have to talk. On other Fridays, for me at least, I'm just in the chat, so I'm awake anyways.
So I know you sort of describe yourself as a bit of a textrovert, someone who's extroverted in the chat. So it's great to have your company. It is a little bit weird because normally the way I know if the chat is working is that you're in there commenting, and you're not commenting there today, but that's all right. I'm sure it's doing its thing. So we are going live to all the various places. Let us know in the chat where you're watching from. But today we're going to be talking about OBS Studio, and I guess in some ways the virtual camera. We're going to be talking, oh, there we go. He actually did put something in the chat, so I know it's working. Let me just click on that. Hello from Germany. Yes, awesome. Okay, so let's get stuck into this. So first of all, I guess say, why do you think it might be worthwhile for people to explore this? Obviously, they have an opportunity to just turn on their web camera and go, and I guess there are probably some background removal and blur options in there. What do you think the benefits are of actually creating something in OBS?
Yeah, I think maybe that's exactly the point. Everyone can just turn on their camera, and whatever angle it is, whatever the lighting is, whatever you get out of the camera, just like I'm doing at the moment. My point is to distinguish yourself from the rest, especially if you are not only a participant, but maybe if it's your job to do trainings online and workshops and meetings or facilitate, for example. And I think it adds a lot of professionalism if you. It's not about having 100 scenes where you switch between things and things popping up on your screen, but alone if you start somewhere with, you crop yourself correctly. Right, so that is not too much headspace, or people are seeing your ceiling or the rest more of the room than they see of your face and your body. You can add small details to your camera. Let it be your name. Let's say if you're a trainer, you can have something like your name here that pops in if you are doing training somewhere where people don't know you, or add like little lower thirds. And they don't have to be even fancy, but it's something that's on camera. And the two of us and probably the people who are watching tonight or today morning, they are used to these things. I mean, you don't get like excited when you see someone with a lower third somewhere because you know what it is, you know how to work. Mm-hmm. But this is us. We know these things, and if you don't know what you don't know, you think this is kind of magic or witchery if you see someone using the full power of OBS and not only in Zoom. It doesn't matter which of these video conferencing platforms you use, it works in most of them in a similar way.
Absolutely. And hello to Business Growth Ready, who's watching from Birmingham today. Great to have your company today. I should say too, Said's not at his normal computer. He's had some technical issues during the week. So the audio is a little glitchy today, but let's just bear with us. We've got some really great stuff that I think will help you a lot. So if people don't know, like OBS Studio is this free and open source software that is available for Windows, Mac, and Linux, and essentially we can come and download it. I probably don't want to go on this tangent, but I know Meld Studio is all the rage at the moment, and it kind of hurts my feelings a little bit when people say mean things about OBS. And I had a moment last night. I watched a stream, and I Said will know who did that stream, I'm sure. But I got annoyed at it halfway through, and I stopped watching. And then I thought, I'm going to have a play with Meld, and it's good. Like it's a gentle introduction, but there are so many things that are actually missing for my purposes. So look, they're both free. You can try them out and use them yourself. But essentially, we can come in, we can download for Windows, Mac OS, or Linux, and basically you will get something that looks a little bit like this. And again, the one thing that came up in recent shows is that you can sort of change the appearance of this. So if you prefer something that's a little bit lighter, for example, we can click on a button and it'll change how this appears. I generally stick with the default just because that's what most people are seeing. But once we're in OBS, we have this inner sort of black rectangle, and again, you can change the size of this if you need to. If you're doing something vertical or square, that's an option too. But the great thing about this is now we've got our scenes and our sources, and I'm going to come in and just add in a version of my camera. So I'm going to go up to add a new video capture device. I'll just call this one camera. Normally, you would actually get your real camera in here, but I'm already using my real camera, so I'm going to cheat a little bit with the OBS virtual camera with another version of OBS, which is incredibly meta. But essentially, I've got my camera here, and I've also, because I've got my green screen magic here, I've also got the color underneath me. So the great thing about this is we can come in, we can add in images, we can add in text, we can add in animations and videos and stuff. And I guess one use case that came up recently was just somebody was asking about actually having a bit of an agenda within their video frame. So I'm just going to call this, I'm going to rename this one, I'll just call it John Only. And I'm going to just duplicate this. I'm going to right click and go to duplicate, and I will say agenda. And from here, I can literally just sort of make sure I'm going to select my camera. I'm going to move it off to one side. I've got the wrong source. In fact, I'm going to lock that because it's in the way. Just going to move myself off to one side. Again, you may not have a green screen. Said definitely doesn't use a green screen, so you can do whatever you like here. But getting back to the thing that Said mentioned earlier was about that framing. So you can think about where you are within a frame, and he's sort of moving to one side in the little circle mask I've got for him. But essentially, we could come in here, we could add in images, we can add text. I'm going to just say, I'm just going to call it agenda, and we'll say introductions, today's theme, whatever it happens to be. And I'm going to make this, I probably should have had a better use case for this, but anyway, let's just go. I'm going to change the font to about 90. And we could bring that in, we can reposition that anywhere we want, we can change the colors, we can go from there. And the great thing about, I thought I duplicated that, but evidently I did not, so that's all right. What I can do is if I go back and duplicate this scene again, and I'll just call it John. So basically what we can do here, and in this case, I actually want to move the agenda out of the way. I probably want to just re-center myself here. I'll go to transform and I will go to center to screen. And now, you know, we could be in our Zoom meeting. We could go between these scenes, and we could do our, you know, our agenda and move on to other things. We can also bring in, you know, QR codes, lower thirds, all that cool stuff that Said mentioned. And I guess the magic of this, and again, a lot of people think of OBS sort of exclusively as streaming software, and it definitely can do that, but you can also record local videos, and you can use this magical start virtual camera option as well. When you click on this one, and I can't actually click on this one in this case, so you'll have to use your imagination because I'm doing a little bit of stuff in the background, but I'm just going to go to Zoom. I'm going to bring up my settings and I'll drag them over to where you guys can see it. I've got so much going on my computer today, it's kind of hilarious, but that's all right. So if I go into my settings, and I'll drag this over here, essentially when you go to the video over here, you'll see that we've got a camera option that is OBS virtual camera. So we can select that one, and then anything that we do inside of OBS will be shown to our Zoom participants, which is really, really cool. So say there is one thing that I guess we do need to be conscious of, and that is simply that by default, the virtual camera is very much about visuals only. So I know you do some stuff with virtual audio cables. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, so when you create something in OBS like this, because it's meant for streaming, you can add all the visuals you like, of course, but you can also add audio sources. Let's say you have a video that plays, you have sound effect and music and stuff. When you record yourself, you will hear it in the recording. The audio is captured. When you connect the virtual camera to your Zoom, for example, you will see the image changing, but you haven't connected any audio source. So there are different ways you can do this. One is you select the virtual camera of OBS, and then in the audio settings as a microphone, you select your regular microphone. So you speak directly into Zoom, but the image comes from OBS. This can work very smooth, so you don't have to add anything or do anything else in OBS. What will not happen is if you're thinking about, I have some cool effects, sound effects, especially in OBS, nobody will be able to hear it because you're only capturing your direct microphone. So that there is that. And what can also happen is that you have a slight delay. It always depends on, I don't know, how much load is going on. It could be that you are asynchronous because your audio is faster directly through Zoom, and video always takes a little bit longer and they're not synced up, but it always depends. So this is option one. Option two is a virtual audio cable, just like the virtual camera. It will simulate let's say a hardware device. So if you have anything in OBS that plays sound, you can connect it with the virtual audio cable. What I do for that, and this is for you, John, my way of doing this is I install the plugin Audio Monitor, and then for every audio source I have in my OBS, I can select where I want to route it as a filter. And let's say I have music, or I want to send this to the virtual audio cable, and then I have other things that are only sent to my headphones, for example, because I just want to monitor them. I don't want to play them, maybe. So I like it a bit because I have more control over single sources and what I send where. And usually it's my microphone, and maybe there's one or two songs playing, and that's it. So it's not overwhelming to do this.
Nice.
And there are more options to get audio from A to B, but these are the ones I would just recommend, and quickly done.
Okay, awesome. I guess the other one I do hear a lot about is this one, and I've never actually played with it, to be honest, but the VB Audio virtual cables. So essentially, it's sort of, it acts as a pretend bit of hardware that you can sort of route things to and from. I personally don't use the virtual audio cabling and redirection because if I've got sound effects and stuff to play, I can actually do that from my Rodecaster, and that works pretty well for me. But it's definitely worth exploring. But let's just check into the chat a little bit. I'm going to turn off my screen share. All right, so Business Growth Ready writes, OBS is a recipe book, Meld is ready-made cake mix. Both have their place, however, recipes mean you can do more. And okay, there we go. Yes, I think that's fair. And I think it's a really good introduction to streaming and video creation. I don't have anything against Meld. It just hurts my feelings when people say mean things about OBS. Hello to Walter, who's watching as well. Says, good evening, John. Great to have your company today. So today we are sort of experimenting and talking about how we can work with OBS in Zoom to make our I guess our meetings, our presentations, our facilitation a little bit more compelling in Zoom. Zoom's not a piece of software that I personally use very often, so I was thrilled that Said could come on and talk about that because I know he uses that sort of day in, day out. The other thing I will say, because it did come up as a question during the week, is the great thing about the virtual camera is that it does work in most software that supports webcams. So if you are using something like Microsoft Teams or Google Meets, it's very, very similar process. You just sort of make sure that you've got that start virtual camera button selected and go in and select that as your video camera. I've only had one or two pieces of software that didn't play nicely with it, and that was many, many years ago, and I imagine they're probably a lot better than they were. So I guess the next part of this is that I know, Said, you often bring in the Zoom comments into OBS, and that means that you can actually display them on top of your video. So can you talk to us a little bit about how that works?
You talked about this, I think you showed it in one of your live streams, at least in one, and there are videos on your channel. It's called Social Stream Ninja, and it's a free plugin, not even for OBS, it's a free plugin for Google Chrome, and I think even Firefox, which is not recommended, but there's also one for that. And what it does is it captures the comments in the chat, and it does this for YouTube, it does this for LinkedIn, but also for video streaming platforms. Video conferencing platforms like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, and a few other I never heard about. I think the list is about 50, 60 different platforms and tools, no matter if it's streaming or anything else. Yeah, and from there you can set it up a little bit if you want to beautify it. Otherwise, it's just a browser source that you can then add to OBS, and so to display them. And there's a second one for you as an admin where you can just filter them or click on them, which one you want to display or to highlight. It's not a little bit of work, but it's an additional step. So if you're doing this, everything needs a little bit of effort to do it, but the effect is very, very big. So if you actually have like a webinar or a training in Zoom and somebody asks a question, it pops up and says, oh, John is asking, does this also work in Microsoft Teams, for example? In Zoom, you would even have the face next to it because it captures all the avatars. It's a very personal thing. Doesn't always work in all chats, but so people are always surprised when they say, oh, how did that work? And you're not even screen sharing or doing anything. It's just people are looking at your camera and things are happening there. So yeah, it always adds a special effect to what's happening on the camera. And I think it's appreciative to show people's names or to show the questions so everybody can read them and you don't lose track of, depending how much is going on in the chat, you may lose questions or comment. This way you have them all queued and can go through them. Just like you are doing right now. So that's why I like it. Whatever you're doing right now, you can literally go into a Zoom meeting with me and press virtual camera instead of start streaming, and it would look exactly the same.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so what we might do, and I'll head over to Social Stream Ninja. So essentially, we do have different apps, and I think these are relatively new. But essentially, you can install a Chrome extension by downloading it, or you can get it from the web store. I won't take you through the process of actually installing it, but I do want to talk to you about how this actually works. So first of all, the real trick with working with Zoom in this way is that when you log into the Zoom interface, it'll really want to push you to the app that's on your computer, and that's great. It's probably where you want to do your meeting, but we also want sort of this backup here. So I'm just going to say cancel, and I'm going to hope that it's going to give me the option to, okay, it's not going to give me the option, so that's going to be really annoying. In fact, I might just reload this and see if it gives me any more joy doing it this way. So, all right, I don't know that that's going to work, but let's just try this. So I'm just going to really quickly go and host a meeting. Okay, now I can go cancel. And you'll see here, there's actually an option that says, don't have the Zoom workplace installed, download now. I don't really want to do that now. Okay, there we go. So if I press it again, it clearly wants you to use the app. So we're going to have to annoy it a little bit. And then we can say, join from your browser. So once we join from the browser, we will have the meeting here. I don't know that I will share all my details here, but we'll see. But essentially, once this is going, we've got you've installed this extension, and I might even, I'll just hide Said for a second because where I've got in place. So essentially, we've got this, we make sure it's activated, it's turned on. We've actually got a few different things here, and these are blurred out so you can't see them, but essentially we go to streaming dock, and I can right click on this one, I think, copy link is what I'm looking for. Sorry, haven't had enough coffee this morning. So we go to copy link, and if I go over to OBS, and I'm going to have to hide this temporarily because I don't want you to see this link because it's literally the one that I'm using live right now. But what we can do, and my camera's died there, so I'm just going to turn that off. Probably too many things trying to use it all at once. But if we go to the docs, we can actually go and add a custom browser doc. So I will call this one Ninja Chat. And I'll paste that URL in here. And again, I'm going to just stop sharing my screen for a second because I don't want you to see this because it's literally something I'm using right now that's live. And if we go back to, okay, I think my entire camera has frozen up, so that's joyful. I'm just going to say, it's okay. I'm going to say allow. I don't know why I'm probably expecting too much of my computer right now because I'm doing a lot of different things, but let me just see if I can refresh my camera. So I guess, Said, in some ways, like the thing that you keep alluding to, I think, is that there's a degree of magic involved in all of this, and it can be really impressive to other people when you do this. So, like, I realize you do a lot of fun things to sort of get people really entertained. So, what are some of the things that really stand out in terms of just making sure that people can do their thing?
While you were showing that, there you are back. Okay, awesome.
Yep.
While you were showing Video Ninja, I always call it Video Ninja because it's the same guy. Social Stream Ninja. There are also other options which I find very convenient because I already use it for the comments, and even if I don't use it for the comments, one thing I like to use is the emoji wall, I think it's called, where when people type an emoji in the chat, it will somehow pop up on your screen. Yeah, it looks boring, but it only looks boring in its raw condition. If you add this to your scene in OBS, for example, and add a little bit of transparency, make the whole thing a little bit bigger or smaller, or put it only in one corner, or crop it a little bit. It's not only about creating something that's impressive. It's also when people see their own input on screen. So if I have like the laughing emoji or thumbs up or thumbs down, I can actually see it on screen. And you as a streamer should know. I mean, engagement is not only something you want if you do live streams. Sometimes it's even maybe more crucial if you have the people actually in the room and they have their cameras off and falling asleep because it's just another PowerPoint presentation. So it's really small things to have this little effect. Oh, there's something changing on the screen. But maybe I even triggered it because I asked a question or I shared a thumbs up or something like this in the chat. And that's one tool. And I also, probably I haven't shared this one with you yet, but I also use Stream Alive maybe for a year now already, which does not show you directly the comments on screen, but it has other features like, let's say you want to create a word cloud, or you want to have a poll somehow, or a rating. And there's this really cool thing with the globe. And maybe you saw it in one of my videos. If you ask people, share in the chat where you're from, and I write Dortmund, Germany, it will actually pop up on the map. I don't know how things work. For me, it's also magic. Some API stuff in the background, however. And yeah, this is also something that, again, impressive because you're not used to these things, especially not in a meeting. But it also adds value because if you ask me where I'm from and I share it with you and you can actually see it and maybe mention it or talk about it, what's the point of asking people? And then you get like 100 answers in the chat and you can not follow along, or you don't really care about what's happening this way, where it's always visual next to your face or on a separate slide. And streamers do this all the time, these things. But for video conferencing, maybe still a little bit new and still super exciting.
Absolutely.
It's a different world sometimes.
Yep. So thanks for your indulgence, everybody. I'll go back to what I was trying to demonstrate. So if we go back to the screen share, and I'll make myself full screen. Again, what I've done, if I go back to OBS, is that I've actually added this new doc, which is the Ninja Chat doc, and you'll see that Stefan has actually commented because this is actually going to be the Zoom and the live stream chat combined. So he's over here, which is awesome. So now if I'm in my Zoom meeting, I can say on today's meeting, we will do whatever. I don't know, whatever it's going to be. I guess the only thing I would note is that it literally comes up as on today, it comes up as you, why are you? But essentially we would have somebody else in the meeting doing this thing. So the other part of this, to actually get this comment to show up on the screen in OBS, is if we go back to Social Stream Ninja. So the streaming chat doc and overlay, the doc is the thing that I'm looking at with all the comments in it. You can actually copy the overlay and put it onto a browser source, and that'll show all the chat comments, which can be good, but it can be problematic if there's somebody in your chat saying terrible things. All those terrible things will be burnt into your video if you're doing a recording or you're sharing. But the other thing is the featured overlay. So this way, if I copy this link and I go back to my portable version of OBS here, and I'm going to go down and add a source that's actually a browser source, and I will just say, I might just call this one featured chat. Again, doesn't really matter too much what these are called as long as they make sense to you. And I'll come in here. I'll change this to 1920 by 1080. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this URL with the chat comment. And I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen for a second while I do this, because this is literally live. And this is the trick about this, is that if you are sharing this live, then people can sort of come in and grab your things. But essentially, I've added that and I've pressed OK. And now if I go to, one of the Zoom comments, it'll actually pop up on today's screen. Again, here it says on today's meeting. And the slightly meta thing about this is because it's happening in both versions of OBS, you'll see it within this frame, but also down here with me as well. So I can do that with Stefan's comment and Said's as well. So anything that's coming into here will pop up here, and I can choose to show it on the screen. I guess the other thing that Said alluded to a little bit, and I'm going to make sure I click off that in both places, is that you can actually change the color. You can incorporate the icon of the person that's being featured. You can do all of the things. It just depends on how elaborate you want that to be. So that's, there is a little bit of a step in terms of actually downloading the browser extension and installing it. But to be honest, if you get it from the Google Chrome store, you don't even need to worry about that. It's even easier. So that's a great thing. And I guess, this doesn't really, well, I was going to say this doesn't relate to Zoom. It might actually relate to Zoom. I don't use Zoom often enough to really know, but there are certainly social streaming platforms that don't capture chat. So once the live is over, it's gone forever. And I think this is a really good way of sort of having a bit of a backup. So I know a couple of musicians that actually, they do a live on TikTok and on Instagram, and they will actually read out every comment and have that in the recording so that they can go back to it if somebody makes a request for a particular song, or if they want them to come to a particular part of the world. That's something they can sort of do. So it's quite useful. It's not that difficult, I think, is what I really want to tell you, but just make sure that you're not sharing those URLs with people that shouldn't have access to them, because they can potentially trigger things in your stream or Zoom that might be a little bit weird.
Although, of course, you are demonstrating it right now, but usually you wouldn't do this live.
No.
You set it up once. So the link is always the same, and you don't have to change anything if you decide to switch from Microsoft Teams to Zoom someday. It's just, okay, which browser window do I open in the background? Which meeting do I have running? And OBS will do its thing. So if you prepare it once and you don't change your scenes too often, it's very convenient. But yeah, you still have to get used to it. Or also, if depending on what you do for a living, if you have like a co-host or a moderator or somebody who supports you, they can do it. So if you send me the link to the chat, right, and I can see all the comments, and whenever it's Q&A time, I can just click through them. You don't have to do very, very much on your side. So it would also work having someone who supports you with all the tech features and tech stuff.
Although you do need to negotiate that a little bit, because Sam and I both had the chat link for a little while, and like he was triggering things while I was trying to trigger other things. So we're sort of stepping on each other, but that's all stuff that you can work out in the wash. So that's all good. I guess let's talk about, in fact, what I might do, I'll press this magical button. I'm not sure what this will look like, but don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you happen to be watching this. This is OBS Obsessed. My name's Sean Lacey. I'm joined by the Facilitainer, Said Saddouk, today, and we're talking about bringing a little bit of OBS magic into Zoom and potentially other meeting platforms as well. So, Said, in terms of actually sharing your screen, like obviously Zoom has its own screen sharing capabilities. It's a bit of a running joke, I think, for you especially, that there is that whole dance of they have to find the button, they click the button, can you see my screen yet, all that sort of thing. There are obviously ways of doing this within OBS. When do you think it would be more appropriate to reach for one or the other?
I think screen sharing itself is always the same effect as trying to plug in an old USB stick. It always takes us 3 tries until you get the right monitor or the right window, or I forgot to activate the audio or whatever. It's really a running gag. But the good thing about screen sharing on your virtual camera is, first, you don't have to change anything. The only thing you have to do is change through the scene that has the screen sharing in it. And if you're lucky and have like a stream deck, you have like 3 buttons. One is you, one is with screen sharing. That's all you need. And it's also not that hard to have like a hotkey that you create, or just click on the next scene in OBS. And if you screen share, you most of the time you have your camera like really small in the top left or in the top right of the video conferencing tool. And yeah, if you do it with OBS, you can control it better. I mean, if it's just a small information, I have here like the agenda point, which was a great example. I don't need to be like this little in the top left corner. It can be just me, and then it's the points to the left or to the right. And people keep focused if they see your face. If it's just a PowerPoint that's not moving for 12 minutes, I think it's just harder to keep people engaged. But of course, there's nothing wrong with using screen sharing. If it's for something you spontaneously, so let me quickly share something, or answering a question, yeah, why not just using the screen sharing? But if you have the time to prepare it, why not doing it in OBS? And I personally like it better because I can have all the things open I want to share. I mean, let's say I don't use PowerPoint, but just for the example, let's say I have a PowerPoint presentation, and then there is, I don't know, something else, a website or anything. I have it somewhere. I can add one in one scene, the other in the other scene, and I can just smoothly just transition without, again, having to, stop, wait a minute, and then you stop the screen sharing and look for the other window. So it makes everything smooth, at least for your audience. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Stefan has a great question. If you use a virtual camera and share your screen in the same scene, do you need to tell people to pin your camera or anything else instead of Zoom screen share?
You can tell people, but you don't have to. There is a feature that's spotlight mode. So you can spotlight yourself, or you can spotlight any other person in the room. And that's usually the very first thing you do. Then you are automatically in large size on everybody's screen. So you take control over what they are seeing, but they can also spotlight you if they like, depends. But why should you ask people and then, I don't know, everybody knows how to do it, or why should you bother them with your problems? Just spotlight yourself if you are the host of the session, and you're good to go. Yeah. Makes it much easier. And I think the same features or similar features are also like in Google Meet or something. Yeah, there is maybe something that's called pin myself, or I don't know, different wording, but it means the same.
Yeah, and most software does have some version of that capability. Interestingly, there have been times, and I use a lot of Microsoft Teams, and like I can do everything in OBS and share it via my camera. But the other thing that I have done on the odd occasion is actually project my OBS scene to a separate monitor and just share that monitor. So either way, it's sort of screen share and me. And again, with the extra sort of green screen technology, that blows a lot of people's minds too. But yes, Stefan is saying thanks. That was a really great question. I'm so thankful that you brought that up, because I guess there are a lot of different ways of actually doing this. And I think let's pop into OBS and talk about some of these options that we have available to us. So I guess, first of all, in terms of capturing a screen, and again, I might bring my virtual camera back in a second. I don't know. I'll think about that. But in terms of actually capturing different things, we've got the display capture, which essentially is the entire screen, although you can actually crop parts of it out if you need to. We've got game capture, which I've never used. I'm not really a gamer, but that's a thing that's there if you need to know that. And we do also have window capture. So this is for a specific window. And again, depending on how an app is built, that may or may not include additional dialog boxes. But essentially, if I go in here and I grab my display capture, I can give this a name. I will call this one Field Monitor because that's the screen I'm going to share. It's not actually 1920 by 1080, which you'll see in a second. But basically, I never change the capture method. I leave it on automatic. That always works pretty well for me. But I want to find my field monitor. And at the moment, it's just got the clock on it, so I know how we're going for time. We can capture the cursor or not capture the cursor. So if I have that on and I move this over here, you'll see that the cursor is being captured, which is probably a good idea for a screen capture. But like if you were just sharing PowerPoints, maybe you don't need that. So that's the choice you can make. But essentially, I've got my screen here. I think in the spirit of Zoom, let's move to something that's not exactly Zoom, but Zoom-esque. We've got a little bit of a cute avalanche Zoom gallery of kittens, and you can check those out. And thanks to Sampro for letting me do that. The great thing about this is that we can make this as large or as small as we want to. If I hold down the Alt key on Windows and drag in, it'll actually crop that for me. And I can do that on all the edges. Again, had I sort of designed something specifically for this, it probably would have made more sense. And I guess that's the thing, you'll have to think about where this is being positioned in the scheme of things. But if I turn my virtual camera back on and maybe bring myself back here, actually I think it's, am I moving? I am moving. Okay, that's cool. All right, so what I'll do is if I move my camera to one side and then I go, okay, maybe this would make more sense if I sort of grab this and did it, I don't know, vertically instead. I can potentially play with this and make it fit. I won't worry about that too much right now, but it'd be a great thing that you can actually sort of bring that in. And that could be the Zoom participants. It could be literally anything else, though. It could be an application. I actually have 4 different screens here, but they're all mostly being used via the stream. So, and the other thing is when I have my proper green screen, I could actually put this you know, slightly behind my head or whatever in the way that I'm doing for the software sharing. So, so do you have any sort of, I guess, best practices when it comes to capturing your Zoom participants?
So I try to do this most of the times. I at least have one scene that has the Zoom gallery in it. So the participants are with me on stage. The way you did it was actually pretty good. What I would suggest there is you would use the window capture instead of the display capture, because you don't want to see all the context menus and stuff. Imagine if you go over the gallery to mute yourself, to have this little tooltip or whatever, which can be on somebody's face. So in this case, I would do it specifically to avoid having anything popping up or moving, and also turn off your mouse cursor in this source. Yep. So because you will hover over them to do something. So and then don't want that to be. And once you cropped it to the right dimensions, you can add a little bit of style to it. Have a little mask with a little bit of rounded corners, add a little drop shadow, have a little frame around it, and then have this one scene where it's you maybe a little bit smaller, and then it's just Zoom gallery and big, maybe for the welcome, and people can see themselves, and maybe just later on for little check-ins, maybe it's just small somewhere down in the corner so that you can pop them in from time to time. And I realized for myself, when you do this, especially in the intro, I mean, people join us and they see there are other people on his camera, for example. I think it motivates one or the other to maybe turn the camera on, because it's a nice effect. Yeah, and also later on, if you record yourself, it's not just you talking to yourself, right? Which is creepy. You actually have an audience, and they can be with you from time to time. Yeah, if you share this video, or if you want to create content for YouTube or anything, it always makes, I think, feels better. So, oh, he actually has an audience he's talking to, and I don't know, the questions are from them. It's not just him having a monologue for 60 minutes. Yeah, and seeing people's reactions, which is also we will not get started with reaction videos, but yeah, at least seeing people reacting to whatever you're presenting is my point.
Yeah, sure. I guess you probably do need to disclose the fact that you might be recording their cameras, and I know that you've got some stuff in all your sort of trainings to let people know that as well. But yeah, I mean, I guess to your point, like. Once you've captured this, it could be one of those things that we could duplicate. And I love duplicating scenes. If you haven't figured that out already, but like just duplicate it and say, maybe Zoom Kittens featured. And from here, maybe we want to make this more prominent. Maybe we want to make me smaller. Like you have all the possibilities of doing this. I could even maybe mask myself out. I'm pretty sure. In fact, let me put myself on top. So that's the other thing too. We've got the layers. The things that are at the top of this list will be on top of the other elements. In this case, because I haven't actually got my proper green screen, it is obscuring it a little bit. But if I go into maybe the filters and use the advanced mask option, the plugin that we have there, I can sort of crop myself to a different shape. I don't know, maybe a circle or whatever, something like that. We could play around with these. And the great thing about this is these are little tweaks, but we can sort of switch between them from time to time. I probably want to actually duplicate, create a separate version of this so I don't have to toggle that filter on and off all the time, because you'll see that it is actually going everywhere that I'm using that. So in this case, I might want to go in and actually turn this off. In fact, I will get rid of that entirely. So I guess that's the other thing. It's another plugin, and I know people can get a little overwhelmed with the plugins, but they really give you so much power. So if I remove this, and I'm going to go and add a clone of this, source clone is the plugin, and I'll say copy of camera. And here we could go to a source, potentially, previous scene. Not really sure why it's not, there we go. Okay. So, I'm just trying to remember. Camera is the one I'm looking for. Okay, so this is kind of its own separate thing. So now I can actually apply those filters to this, and they won't impact the other version of this. And again, a couple of plugins to install. I've covered them on previous shows. It's not massively difficult, but it will potentially give your stream a little bit more sparkle. So if I go a circle, I'm never really completely aligned in this circle, so I could tweak these numbers a little bit, but yeah, something like that. And I can resize this, I can reposition it. I could even maybe change the background so it's a little bit more apparent that I'm sort of separate from the thing. But the great thing about this is OBS is literally free. Download it, have a play. Even if you decide not to use it, there's so many fun things that you can play with and experiment with. So definitely get involved in all of that. I guess, like, say the other thing that I guess you alluded to, and again, this is where I have to admit that I barely ever use Zoom, but I imagine that there's a whole lot of docs and different things for chat and stuff. And can you set, I guess you can separate them, because you mentioned the window capture to get the Zoom gallery by itself. So how do you like to work with the different docs and options that you have available to you?
So there is one little thing you don't have to, but nice to know that it exists in Zoom. There is a dual monitor mode. So you go into the settings, I think under general, and then you activate dual monitor, which will give you two Zoom windows. One is the gallery, and the other one is the speaker view or your self view, depending, or you can pin somebody to the second window. If you're not used to it, so, oh my God, no, I have an additional window here. If somebody's just saying, if somebody's screen sharing, you still have the gallery on one window and the other one shows the screen share. Mm-hmm. And as the host of a session, you can then put the gallery. I like to put it on my teleprompter, because I like to look at the people, and because my teleprompter is also a monitor, I capture it from there into OBS back, right? So and then there is the other window that is on my regular monitor. You pop out the chat So you have it somewhere positioned, and you pop out the participants list, so to see all the names, just in case, I don't know, if you see people are joining or leaving and all the other settings. So I always try to pop them out if I have enough space on my desktop and have them separately. And I think you talked about it. I definitely talked about it. Fancy zones from the, what is it called? The actual tool.
The Power Toys.
Yep. Yes, exactly. And then you can create these little zones, for example, if you like, and then, oh, here's where my chat is always, here's where my participants list is, here's where the gallery is, which is good for organizing yourself and also good for capturing, because the gallery is always at the same place, always has the same size, and it's way easier to just capture it and reuse it. And for your own flow, it's always a nice thing if you know where things are on your desk. But you don't have to pop these things out or dock them out if you don't want to. And this is just the way I like it. So when I'm looking for a chat message, it should be not buried under other windows, or I have to do 3 clicks just in case.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, you know, you do so many of these, so it's really important that you find the workflow that works for you. I guess I did just want to touch on, since you mentioned it, was this Power Toys. This is Windows only. It's from Microsoft. It has an extraordinary amount of options in here. I barely use any of these, but the one that I do use is called Fancy Zones. And this is the thing that'll actually let you carve up areas in your screen that you can actually have things sort of snap to different regions within your screen. So if I launch this, and I'm not really sure how this is going to go, but we'll give it a go. So essentially, I think that's the teleprompter. Okay, there we go. So basically here, I've got and it's probably going to look a little weird in OBS, but just bear with us for a second. So we've got these different things where we can actually create rows and columns and grids and have different areas that we can have things snap to. So I'm not going to make any changes here, but what I kind of wanted to draw your attention to is if I open a random image, and I think we'll go with the thumbnail for this show, I can drag this, and when I drag, see that there are actually 3 distinct areas here because I've set them up in such a way. So I can have it here, I can have it in the middle, I can have it over here, and that's just one layout. In fact, there's an extra layout that I forgot was even there that I can drag things into. So if you do need to arrange things, especially if you've got an extra wide curved monitor or something where you know, maybe it's not really feasible to just like maximize things without additional tools, but that in itself is really, really cool. It's literally free. It's sort of perennially in beta, but it is really, really quite awesome.
Yeah, I use it all the time. And again, it's one of these tools where I ask me, why is it free? I don't get it. The Fancy Zones alone is, I think, I tried out some others. I was researching. I couldn't find any window management tool that comes close to what Fancy Zones does. And I have to admit, the one other tool from this suite I use is the ruler. And I use it to actually, when I create overlays, then I can measure how many pixels is something on my monitor away from the next window, or I don't know, how can I organize it better, or how much do I have to crop so I can get the last pixel. And I use this pretty often, so just to measure out things, and then I could create more easily in OBS itself or in Figma or elsewhere. So small and simple tool, but to me it helps a lot.
Yeah, and it's got so much random stuff in there too, like color pickers and advanced paste and keyboard manager and mouse utilities. There's all kinds of amazing stuff buried in there. I guess the other thing, and I haven't played with this in a while, there are plugins for the Stream Deck that let you rearrange windows as well. And there was one that just was diabolically awful that didn't work for me ever, and I don't remember the name of it. But I think the one that I did end up liking was the Matrix one. Let me just see if I can find it in this list and mention it briefly. Okay, let's share my screen. It's actually sort of slightly, in fact, let's move this in the middle so you can see more of this. But essentially, if I go to something else, I've got so many things on here. This is just the mini. I do also have the extra large, but I don't, I'm using that for the stream. But essentially, the great thing about this is we can sort of find a window with a particular title. Oh, actually, that's the button title, but I can sort of say, like, what do I want here, and actually reposition it into different places. I can use one of many screens. In fact, I've only got 4 screens and it's listing 20, so you have to be careful that I'm not moving it to a screen that doesn't exist. But essentially, we can click on this also to find the screen ID. So it'll put a big number over the top of the screen to let you know which one you're looking at. And that way you can do that. And there's a whole bunch of different options to resize this and maximize it and move it. So those two, they're just really useful ways of actually doing that. The other thing too is that the prompter, the Elgato prompter, actually had a bit of an update recently. And that would be under Camera Hub. I kind of wish these were alphabetical, but I'm going to search for it because I don't remember. Okay, there we go. It does actually have this great... I'm just trying to remember what it's called, window to prompter. So if you wanted to move a specific window to your prompter, you can literally do that now, press a button and it'll go there. And the great thing about that is it's a toggle. So you can press it once to move it to the prompter if you've got one, press it again, it'll go back to wherever it came from. So those are a couple of things. Again, I don't know that everyone necessarily needs all of that stuff, but if you do need that stuff, it's really important to know where it is and what you can do with it. So I hope this has been useful for you today. Thank you so much, Said, for joining us. Do you have any places where we can send people who want to learn more about you and follow your content and all that good stuff?
If you like to connect with me, I'm always on LinkedIn, where I spend most of my days, and my name is somewhere, so just look for it and you can find me. And otherwise, I also have a YouTube channel. I don't know if your bot is running, but I think you have this little command somewhere you set up last year.
I can't spell evidently, but it actually works. So that's okay. So someone triggered it. Oh no, and I can't spell
because there are all the things you talked about. There are some recordings where you can see how I use Zoom. There's whole workshops and trainings are recorded there to watch, and you see the little things like what we mentioned before: having the gallery on screen, having other visuals on screen, having the emote wall, and the questions, etc. So you can watch live in action.
Absolutely, and make sure you actually check out Said's YouTube page, which is at the Facilitainer. There's so much great content in there. Guest star moments. He goes on a lot of streams, popular videos, all the good stuff that's in there. And Said likes to infuse a lot of humor into all the various things that he does. So that's really, really cool. So again, thank you so much for being with us. I know this is... Some people, especially if they've just been using Zoom alone, may find this a little bit daunting, but I think it's honestly worth playing with. Go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. One point is because, as you said, most people are more into video production or for creation and maybe live streaming. I'm not a live streamer. I don't have something that doesn't work for me. But I think using OBS in Zoom, for example, it's the same setup. It's just a closed audience, so you know who to invite. So if you have 5 of your friends or 5 people or how many ever you like, you can practice the on-camera confidence using your Stream Deck and using your OBS, just getting familiar with all the things, just in case if you maybe think, well, I'm not ready yet to go live on YouTube. Yeah, you can practice there, and if it works there, it's the same, but without the smiling faces. If you go to YouTube, you cannot see the people. That's the only difference to doing it in Zoom. So just give it a try and practice and try it out with a few people. Maybe it helps.
And even if you want to perhaps aspire to live streaming and you're just not ready to go live to the world because anybody can show up and ruin your day in the comments, just grab a few supportive friends and have a bit of a play in Zoom or another sort of closed experience. I think that's really, really good advice. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. As you probably know, I do alternate my shows every other week in 2025. So next week I will be doing Learn Live Streaming Live. I don't have a topic just yet, so if there is anything that you're dying to know, let me know in the chat. But otherwise, have a great week. Have a great weekend when you get there. Have a happy Easter if you celebrate. And yeah, just have a go at OBS and let me know if you do that, and if you've got any questions, I'd love to hear from you. Again, thank you, Said, so much for being here, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon.